Do you want to know how to help your teen make friends? I'm Nicholeen Peck, and I teach all over the world about parenting, good communication, how to build strong family bonds, child development, education, all through the lens of the principle self-government. And in this video, we're talking about teens making friends. In this video, we're going to talk about why teens might struggle with making friends, especially in this day and age. And then we're going to talk about what you can do to help them make really good friendships. Why do teens struggle with making friends? Well, I'm sure everybody's first thought is technology. Technology has changed the landscape, the social landscape for our teens in a way that I don't think anybody saw coming years ago. In fact, we're definitely still in an experimental period. We don't exactly know how it's going to turn out, but we do know that there have been a lot of devastating effects of teens on technology. I have a lot of videos here on this channel that relate to teens and technology, so I'm not going to go into a ton of detail there, but I will say related to friendships and communications that many teens and even their parents feel like that teens are dependent upon technology in order to maintain friendships. In fact, I have talked with parents, mothers and fathers who are having battles over whether their teen should be able to be on the phone until 10 p.m. or 12 p.m. or that their teen should be able to have the phone with them whenever they want, and that should the teen be able to have the technology in their room and not in their room, and should they have it at all or not, or and so there are so many debates and struggles and concerns about what this social impact is looking like for teens with technology. Many times teens will express to their parents that if they don't have the technology, if they're not on all the social media applications, that then they feel left out. And some parents who may have a soft spot for that because maybe they felt left out socially when they were younger, worry that their teen will go through some of the same struggles they did, so they want them to have that device and so that they can stay connected. But in the end, the devices are not teaching anybody to have good social skills. Otherwise, with the sheer volume of young teens that have devices at this point, this question would not be such a commonly asked question. But it is. What does that mean? That means that the devices are not teaching proper social to our children. They're not teaching them how to make friends and maintain good relationships. So what is the point then of the social media and the technology? I mean, can you stay connected to a person? Yes, but at what cost? If you're staying connected to a certain person, maybe you consider them one of your peers or friends, are you being disconnected from all the other people around you? And where do you really learn social in the first place? So the family is the first social unit of society. Every person is born to parents and to a family. And if we don't maintain those relationships and create good friendships within that family dynamic with our siblings and our parents and learn how to discuss and problem solve and communicate in that dynamic, how are we going to do with anybody else? And if we are using this device that connects us to a peer to pull us away from our family, is that really useful? There really are only 3 ways for a person to learn social and to develop socially. Number 1, from their families. Number 2, from same age peers. Number 3, from technology. You choose. How do you want your child to develop socially? Most people say, no brainer, Nicholeen. I want them to learn from me. I know more about social than their same age peers. That would be like the blind leading the blind. And then when it comes to technology, do I really want people who would exploit my children to teach them about proper social development? Do I want them to feel like they're better friends with this device than they are with me or with other people? And the answer is an overwhelming no from people. Yet, for some reason, they still feel like, but what do we do with this? What about the friends? Aren't the friends technically connected through the technology? Well, yes and no. What are the friends for? The friends are for practicing our social skills that hopefully we learned within our families. Now, that doesn't mean that every way that the family communicates is going to be exactly the way the friends communicate. There are trends and social norms and fads and things that the young people always have developed for their communication. In fact, they go through these cycles actually, where it's like we go from rad to awesome to fire to whatever, back to rad, or whatever. The words just cycle through because that's what happens in the teen culture. They find what's old, they make it new again. That's how it goes. What we don't need to worry about is the trends and them keeping up with the trends. That's going to happen no matter what. Just the way that people talk with each other. They're going to be able to figure out the trends within their young people population. But what about being able to actually converse with another person? Is what is happening right now on technology actually going to help them a lot in their relationships with spouses, in their relationships with their children, to make good and lasting friendships? Now, I know that what you're really wanting to know is how do we help them make friends? Well, hopefully you've understood that the answer is not more technology. In fact, if you want to help a person truly be able to make a friend, then what you need to do is teach them the interpersonal skills that they need. They need to know how to communicate with other people, how to talk about things, how to discuss things, how to listen to other people too. And those things are all best taught in the home. So this channel is the Teaching Self-Government channel. And if you've subscribed to this channel already, then you know I teach a lot of skills and principles of self-government. So one thing that we talk about in the Teaching Self-Government method of parenting is getting the whole family to buy into a central family vision, a plan of what they want to become as a family. Lots of times what the children are doing, the teens, as they're on the social media or as they're afraid because of their anxiety or whatever of social interactions and making friends with people, is they're lacking a vision. What do I really want to accomplish? Well, they want something that they don't know how to get. They've never seen it done because nobody's doing it. So the best thing that you can do in a family is say, let's make a plan for how we're going to get that family vision. Let's talk about the skills we need, and let's have checkup times where we can discuss what we're doing in our family relationships and how to solve problems. And we do that by having family meetings and then teaching certain concrete skills to the family. So it's no different when we're talking about helping a child develop good relationships with somebody else. Let's start with, what do you want to accomplish? What type of a friend do you want to have? Do you think that other people might also want to have these types of friendships? The answer is yes, because it's a social need that everybody has to have a good and lasting friendship with a person. Do you want someone that you only communicate with on technology? Or do you want somebody who can come and just sit with you and hang out? And they can accept you just how you are, and you can talk about anything under the sun with that person, and they'll support you at your sports games and all these other kinds of things. What is it that you actually want? And if you really were to talk to them, that's what they would say that they wanted. They want someone who's a little bit dearer and nearer to them than what they just get on the phone. So why do teens just stay with what they get on the phone, in the Snapchats and stuff like that? Why? Well, it's because that's just become the normal place where things are happening. But aren't they strong enough to make things happen in another way? Well, we can help them. We can empower them. Obviously, if more youth were empowered to get off the devices and to start doing other things with their friendships, then that would actually be even better. Now, I know some people might be wondering how to help their child create good and lasting friendships because maybe their child has no friends, and they're worried about that. And so they might think, well, the answer is to do this technology way first because that's what everybody does. But do they have to? Because can't you also be their friend? Now, I know that doesn't seem like it's a good substitute, but it is. All people, in fact, want belonging. But when they are in their teen years, they want acceptance and belonging from everyone around them, including their parents. And when they're starting to feel like they're more and more alone, the best thing that you can do is say, you know what? Let's start doing stuff just us. So my husband started singing barbershop with my son 1 or 2 nights a week, starting from the time he was 10. With my daughter, Paige, I started singing barbershop, women's a cappella harmony, with her starting when she was 11, all the way up until she hit about age 15 or 16. With my daughter, London, I started doing genealogy work with her on a regular basis. With my son, Porter, my husband started doing building and constructing and property stuff like real estate learning and business deals. So they started learning adult things from adults, hanging out with us during those times. Now we would get together with other families that had youth the same ages periodically. We would plan parties and see if anyone would come, and sometimes they were great and sometimes they were a bust. That happens. But we would also teach them what it meant to be an adult by the same-sex parents, so female, female, male, male, training them to be good men or to be good women, and getting them connected with other people through these other activities that we would get involved in on a weekly basis with them, starting when they hit about age 11. Age 11 is the time where they need to have a close relationship with you as a parent. And that close relationship fills the bucket so that then they can branch out to other people too. And if they see how adults communicate, if they learn how to communicate with adults, they might become more brave and start communicating with their peers in the same way and reaching out to them in the same way. The other day I got on an airplane and there was a 20-year-old from Florida who I ended up sitting next to. And he immediately, when I sat down, said, "Hi, what are you doing here in Texas?" You know, because we were both coming from Texas. And he was a college student and he'd been there at this leadership training. And you know what they'd been teaching him about communication and about how it's all the relationships and the communications and how that is the most important thing. And so he sat down and he applied it on that airplane and we talked for hours. And it was the greatest conversation. We talked about religion and politics and family and life and jobs and leadership and so many things. And he was like, "This was the best." And I said, "Yeah, it was." And I couldn't help but think inside my head how many times I've been on a plane next to a young person and all they do is look at their device or hide in their hoodie. Because it's not that they don't know how to make a friend. They don't know how to talk to people. And that happens in the family. And teaching self-government can help. So I highly recommend this next video, which is called Communication Hacks for Teens, Parents, and Teachers. Go to that video next. I'll see you there.